It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wise discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather's senior meteorologist, Wesley Williams.
Waking Up with Wesley is sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.
All right, everyone. Hello there, South Mississippi, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams here with your Independence Day Friday forecast and a look into the rest of the holiday weekend, too. So, y'all, we made it to Friday. It's a dry day with very little to no rain, so different from earlier this week. And did you see the sunrise? It was so colorful out there. We'll take a look at that time-lapse video from Gulfport. There you can see in the early morning hours in Gulfport, watch how the color just bursts. Ooh, it fills the sky, breathes life into your Friday morning in coastal Mississippi. And this was, again, from Gulfport by the Hancock Whitney Bank Tower. So this morning has already started off on the right foot with a nice bright start. There are some clouds out there, but clouds on a summer morning actually aren't that terrible of a thing because it does help to slow the heating that is going to happen. That will certainly happen today. So I hope you're ready for a hot holiday because that's what we told you when we first started this week. We told you on Monday that this would be a week that starts wet and finishes hot. And so far, the forecast has panned out exactly as expected in regards to that. Let's take a look at your Independence Day Friday forecast in South Mississippi. Temperatures right now look like they are going to roll right into the middle 90s across much of our area. And I think that the rain chances, they're not 0%, but they are so low that we're going to get many rain-free hours out of the day here, which is just what you want to see. That means if you have plans to head out to the pool or maybe get on to the grill, it's looking pretty good. A lot of hours outside with family and friends, which will be uninterrupted by rain. But you do want to pay attention to the heat as, of course, it is on the hot side. I think the humidity has come down just a smidge, so the heat index is tolerable, although it is hot. Look, here's a look at some of the details on the temperature numbers for places that are along the coast, like Biloxi, Gulfport, Pascagoula, Bay St. Louis. You're looking at temperatures reaching about 94 for this afternoon. And for areas that are a little bit more to the north of I-10, Van Cleef, Saussure, The Kiln, Picayune, Poplarville, Wiggins, Perkinston, Lucedale, Bendale, those are all places where it might be just a few degrees hotter on that thermometer. It might be around 96, maybe 97 in the afternoon. So there's kind of a closer look at some of those temperature forecasts, and you can see they're not that different. Most areas got to be in the mid-90s, which, by the way, is actually above normal for early July. Normally, our high temperature is 90. So to go to the mid-90s, a little bit hotter than you might be used to, but it's not record-setting. Our hottest July 4th ever recorded, I think we covered this back this past Tuesday when we did Tuesday Trivia. We told you the record hottest July 4th temperature is actually 99, not even in the triple digits. So to go to 94, if we actually hit that in Gulfport, Biloxi, that'll only be 5 away from the record hottest July 4th ever recorded. So it's not that far, but I doubt that we are going to actually set a new record today. Now, the heat index, which is the number you get when you factor not just temperature, but also humidity, you combine that, you get the heat index, or feels like temperature. That's going to climb into the triple digits today. We'll probably see it in the 100 to 105 degree range. The places that will experience the hottest heat index will most likely be the places that have the highest humidity, which will be closest to the coast. Farther inland, a place like Stone County, maybe the heat index there only gets to the upper 90s today because there's not as much humidity there compared to areas by the beaches where there's a little bit more humidity, which makes the temperature feel a little bit hotter. Now, as far as rain's concerned, like I said, Not expecting much here at all on the Mississippi coast. We do have that 10 to 20% chance, and you can see the modeling is showing that primarily east of us, or excuse me, primarily west of us, closer to Louisiana, but some of those might try to roll into parts of South Mississippi at times. Meanwhile, off to our east, there's a tropical system trying to form just offshore of Florida. The National Hurricane Center is planning to send our folks from here at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi. They're sending the hurricane hunters. They're scheduled to send the hurricane hunters to fly that disturbance that's east of Florida so that they can see if it has become a depression or storm. That's what usually makes that determination when we fly a specialized aircraft into that disturbance, and it is able to really get a close view of how the wind circulation is forming or not forming in that disturbance. And if the hurricane hunters do find that the center or the wind circulation has become closed off, and it has all those other necessary requirements, not only a closed wind circulation, but also a well-defined center, and of course, thunderstorms that are developing around that center. Once it checks all the boxes, then the National Hurricane Center could pull the trigger, maybe today, maybe at some point later on July 4th. They could pull the trigger and call this thing a depression, or they could call it a storm if the wind speeds are greater than are equal to or greater than 39 miles per hour. Now, the good news for our neighbors on the East Coast, the Southeast Coast, is that today, most of the rain with that is expected to stay offshore. So you don't really see many land areas getting hit with that rain, other than portions of Florida, who could kind of get some of the tail end. But the rain for July 4th is expected to stay pretty light. Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Now, later into the holiday weekend, that could change for them, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But I do want to get closer to home here in South Mississippi. Let's take a look at our futurecast for Friday for the rain chances. So this is a look at this morning. The rain chances are pretty slim, 10 to 20%. But then as we get to the afternoon, noticing the green color on the modeling showing up, especially closest to Pearl River and Hancock counties, that's where maybe we could see some of those Louisiana rain showers and storms might briefly try to roll into parts of the Mississippi coast. So don't be surprised if we see an isolated or a stray storm somewhere today, primarily in the afternoon. Good news is that once we get to the evening, I know there's fireworks, and Mother Nature does not look like she will add her own fireworks to the mix, because those rain chances are expected to decrease right there during the evening from 20% down to 10% from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that means also with the skies clearing, you basically couldn't ask for much better for Friday night fireworks in coastal Mississippi. Looks pretty good for us. Now, some people might also be planning to do fireworks perhaps at times this weekend. It's a whole holiday weekend. And if you are having plans to spend time outside over the weekend, understand that the rain chance won't be as low as it is today. Today for Friday, only looking at a stray thunderstorm. But tomorrow for Saturday, I think we could see an increase in the rain activity, and we could also see a few hit or miss storms on Sunday. Here's tomorrow's futurecast. You can see Saturday morning starts off with many rain-free hours in the morning, but by the time we get to the midday or the afternoon, maybe we see a few of those bubble-up storms in a few places. As kind of a weak upper disturbance moves in from the northeast, that could help to kick up some of those. But like we go to the afternoon, or rather from the afternoon to the evening, that is how we can get away from those rain chances. Noticing by 7 p.m. already back down to 20%, and then you notice down to basically 10% once we get into the overnight hours. So the rain chances will decrease, just like they decrease for Friday night, they will also decrease for Saturday night. So that's good news there. But yeah, your weekend does not look like it's going to be completely rain-free everywhere. There could be some showers and storms in a few places, especially at times on Saturday afternoon and maybe at times on Sunday afternoon. We do want to do a very brief check on the tropics before we go, since there is that disturbance offshore of Florida, and the National Hurricane Center is watching that. Before I do, I'm going to check my reconnaissance map. I've got a map that will update as soon as the hurricane hunters fly out of Keesler in Biloxi. And I don't see their flight data in my graphic yet, so I'm not going to use that one yet. But once I see that flight data in there, we'll be able to use that other graphic. But this is that disturbance that's moving offshore of Florida. It's already a low pressure system, but it's just a matter of if it's going to become an actual depression or storm. They call these things invests. You know why? Because they are being investigated for development. And the hurricane hunters will literally fly into that system and disturbance rather, and investigate to see if it has those factors required to become a tropical system. So far, though, we have seen the pressure actually drop with this. It dropped from 1013 down to 1011. So with the air pressure falling, that is a sign that it could be trying to get a little bit stronger. It might be on the way to becoming a better defined, more organized possible system. It's moving to the north-northeast at 8 miles an hour. The wind speeds with it are 30 miles per hour. In order to have tropical storm winds, it has to be at 39 or higher. So if the hurricane hunters flew into this right now and found that it had a well-defined center, a closed circulation, and thunderstorms around the center, they would call this a depression. It's not a strong enough wind to be a storm. And what I can observe on satellite and radar this morning is that there's a lot of wind shear being imparted on this disturbance. Those are strong winds upstairs in the air, and they are blowing basically from west to east across this system. So all the clouds are being sheared off to the eastern side, and that's why it has a bit of a lopsided appearance, where most of the rain and storms are appearing on the right half, and you have it kind of barren and blank and bald on the left half. So it's not like it has all the perfect conditions. Sure, the water temperatures are warm enough and there's a decent amount of moisture, but wind shear is going to limit this thing from just kind of blowing up and becoming some kind of strong, huge hurricane or anything like that. There are some limiting factors, and wind shear is a big one right now for this particular feature. So far, the National Hurricane Center keeps the chance at medium. Maybe they'll increase that chance to high if the hurricane hunters fly and find more favorable conditions for that development. That orange area you see circled there is where the Hurricane Center thinks that it's possible for this to turn into a depression or storm at some point over the next 48 hours into the weekend. Our computer modeling showing this kind of just sitting offshore of Jacksonville by tomorrow, and it still looks like even if this is where the center would be located, most of the weather with this is mainly offshore. The rain, the squalls, that's mostly offshore, so that's good. But sometimes some of those squalls could roll ashore onto some parts of the southeast coast. So if you do have some holiday weekend plans over there, just keep in mind sometimes there could be some of those heavy, gusty tropical squalls that could move ashore and cause tropical downpours. And beaches over there on the Atlantic coast could feature high surf, where the wave action is really kind of rough. And maybe there's a small amount of coastal flooding or a small amount of storm surge right along the immediate beaches, anywhere from Jacksonville through Wilmington, North Carolina, based on the information that we're seeing in the modeling today. Again, all the way through Sunday, you never really see this become some kind, blow up and become a huge storm or anything like that. So that's one good sign. Maybe it would just be on the weaker side, a weaker depression, weaker storm, hopefully for those folks. So that's pretty much our update for today. Just some tropical weather offshore of the southeast coast. But meanwhile, looks like some rain-free hours on the Mississippi coast for your July 4th Friday, and then maybe a slight uptick in that rain chance heading into tomorrow and parts of Sunday as well. Well, that'll do it for today. Thank you for waking up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. Hope you have a good one, and we'll see you again next time. Take care, everyone.
Waking Up with Wesley has been sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.